The Liberation of Sundrian City by Andrew Lewis. Chapter 7. Representing. As evening set in, Linus's house became busy with guards who poked around in the basement and asked him questions about Evander. "We've seen this happen before," one guard assured Linus with a shrug. "Slave wants to be rid of his master, takes the easy way out." Although the guard seemed quite sure of himself, Linus could see one slight mistake in his logic. But Evander wasn't enslaved to our family. I mean, he was once, but that was a long time ago, before I was even born. He served his sentence, and then my family took him on as a paid servant. The guard was a little stumped by this. He scratched his temple with the tip of his short sword. Linus could see that he was trying hard to be helpful. "Well, if that's the case," he said, "why didn't he just leave work rather than kill his masters?" It seemed to Linus that the guard had rather missed the point. But he had raised a decent question in the meanwhile. It was something that Linus had never really understood, but also never asked either. With the daily abuse inflicted on him by Henry, why hadn't Evander left a long time ago? He could have left and gotten a job making weapons in another factory, or working on a farm, or playing lute somewhere. He had plenty of options, although none of them would have been in the special residencies. Some families worked their entire lives trying to secure a place in the special residencies, and never did. Linus supposed that was the reason Evander stayed. "Had your servant, Evander, yes. Had he ever displayed violence toward you or your family before?" "No, not at all. It's the opposite. My father beat him almost daily, and my mother, and me too. Evander never retaliated, but he hated him for it. We all did at times." "Guess he just finally cracked," the guard concluded, on Linus's behalf. "But why did he kill—" Linus choked a little on his words. "Your mother?" the guard cut in. "Sometimes people are just so overcome by rage that they can't control themselves. He was set on putting an end to your father, and she got in the way." The guard gave Linus a bracing squeeze on the shoulder, crossed the room, and began conversing in a hushed tone with some of the other guards. The evening rolled on. It was a few hours later when Butch Ormine came barging through the front door. The guards had long since left the house. They had now taken to patrolling the street in search of Evander. "Linus, my boy," he said breathlessly, "I've heard what happened." Linus felt somewhat relieved to see Butch, which was something he'd never expected to feel before. "Hello," he said, quite simply. "Oh, look at you," Butch exclaimed, spotting the ghost of Linus, dead to the world. He pulled Linus into an embrace, patting him hard on the head. Linus's arms remained limp. He had not the energy to reciprocate the gesture. He said nothing. He was numb. "Come on, you are staying with us. You shouldn't be here, not tonight." Linus completely agreed. He had been harbouring a strong urge to get out of the house for hours now, but could think of nowhere to go. And so Linus found himself in what his father would surely have deemed enemy territory, sipping jasmine tea and eating a slice of Frian's family lemon and rhubarb sweet cake, which really was very good, he had to agree. The house was identical to their own, which Linus had expected, as all the houses in the special residencies were, but still it seemed eerie to him. "Wow," he said, mouth full to the brim. He swallowed and sipped his tea, washing down the sticky sauce which seemed to require melting in hot liquid before it could be swallowed. Frigg was right, wasn't he? "It's delicious," said Linus with a faint smile. And indeed, the cake was good enough to ease his wearied mind long enough to fall asleep on a lumpy, square mat in the Ormine's sunroom. Linus was awoken in the morning by Butch shaking his shoulder vigorously. "Linus," he said hastily, "there are guards here to talk to you." Linus stirred, and was with Butch in the plane of the conscious rather quickly. He hadn't slept as deeply as he might have hoped for. "Guards? Have they found Evander?" "I don't know. They just asked to speak to you. Linus, it's Deimos." Linus shot bolt upright. "Deimos? Here? What does he want with me?" He was thoroughly awake now. "Get up. Go and talk to him. I'll come with you if you like." Linus thought that he would very much like that. Deimos was a terrifying man. He didn't respond, but the wideness of his eyes was confirmation enough, and they made their way to the front door, where Deimos stood on the threshold, a sword sheathed at his back, looking curiously around the kitchen. "Linus?" he asked. "Yes, that's me." "My name is Commander Ezekiel Deimos, and I come on behalf of the palace," said Deimos, in a deep, resolute voice. "It is my understanding that your parents, Henry and Ava Smith, were killed last night by the hand of your servant, Evander Diomede. Is that correct?" "That's correct," said Butch, placing a hand softly on Linus's shoulder. "I am speaking," hissed Deimos, "to Linus." Butch withdrew his hand and took a step back. Linus nodded. "Yes, sir, Evander killed them." "And you are now the last surviving member of the Smith residence. Is that correct?" Yes, sir, that is correct." Linus was almost glad that the commander was being so blunt. It felt somehow refreshing, and Linus was grateful for it. "And can you make arrows?" "Can I make—" Linus faltered, somewhat taken aback by the question. "Arrows, child. Can you make them like your father could?" "I—" "Of course he can," interjected Butch. "He is a smith, after all." Deimos shot a fierce glare at Butch. If looks could kill, Deimos would surely have just stared a dagger into Butch's eye. He did not speak a word, but Butch heard the message as loud as a blast of Remy's thundersword. Linus knew he couldn't make arrows like his father could, especially not by himself, but his gut was telling him that lying would be the quickest way to be rid of the commander. "I can make them," said Linus, "but it's a two-man job. I will need a servant." "Very well, you start today. I will have a man sent from the palace this afternoon, your new servant. By week's end, you are to deliver your work for inspection by the armory, whereupon your worthiness will be judged." "His worthiness?" asked Butch. This time, Deimos let Butch's insolence slide and answered the question, a darkness surfacing on his face. "The Emperor's special residencies are fit for the town's elite only. If Linus cannot make the city's finest arrows, he cannot stay in the city's finest residencies." Deimos looked somewhat pleased with Butch's evident resentment of him. "1 week," he said, addressing Linus directly now, and with that he turned and curtly left the property. Linus spent the rest of the morning pottering around the factory, his thoughts racing at 1,000,000 miles an hour. He had never made an arrow from scratch before. There were some parts of the process he hadn't done since he was young, and other parts he had never tried at all. By about noon, he had remembered that the stock shelves were over full, and decided that at week's end he would present the armory with the arrows from the stock, claiming to have made them. This would surely buy him some time, if it worked. But, alas, not more than an hour later, a guard arrived at the door, thwarting his plan. "I have been sent by Commander Deimos to collect any arrows in stock," he announced, straight-faced and official. "Of course, the palace will pay you full price for any arrows you present." The guard followed Linus to the basement, where Linus pointed to the stock. It took the guard and Linus several trips to carry all the arrows to the cart, which stood at the front door. It was nearly 3 months' worth of stock. The guard retrieved a ruby silk pouch from the inside of his armoured vest. He opened it and counted out 16 golden coins, and as he did so, Linus began to feel light-headed. He had never seen so much money in his life. "Thank you, sir," said the guard. Linus was speechless. Shortly after the guard's visit, a visit that Linus couldn't decide whether he was horrified or ecstatic about, he had a realization that made his mouth dry with excitement. His family had been earning far more gold than they spent. His father must have been hiding gold somewhere. He promptly forgot about making arrows and set about the new task of scouring every nook of the house, top to bottom, looking for the hidden gold. When he got to his parents' bedroom, he found a simple wooden container under the bed. He pulled it out and opened it. His heart skipped several beats. The container was full to the brim with golden pieces. He tipped them out and began to count. 32, he screamed to no one at all. 32 gold pieces! He hastily added the two amounts in his head. He was now the proud owner of 48 gold pieces. A short while later, as the harsh afternoon sun began to mercifully diminish, a man arrived at the house, knocking softly on the wooden door. He was a squat, heavy-set man with a thick neck and a gruff demeanour. He looked at least 3 times the age of Linus. "I've come to serve in your factory, sir," he said, with an ungraceful bow. "My name is Hestia. I was sent from the palace." Linus introduced himself and took the man to the basement. They sat together for a half hour while Linus tried and failed to explain the process of making the perfect arrow. The more Linus spoke, the more he felt utterly helpless. With his mind so scattered, his attention so divided, he could not even recall how to sort goose feathers. He was useless. After much deliberation, Linus asked the servant to find any feathers that seemed similar to the one on the end of a snapped arrow which he had picked up off the ground. "You want it to look like this," he instructed, quite lamely. "Although, well, not snapped." The man did as he was instructed with a shrug of indifference. "I'll be back later," said Linus, once the servant seemed to know what he was doing. He spotted the look of mild curiosity that was plain to see on the servant's face, and answered his unasked question. "I'm going to the markets."